Hello and welcome to the Amazon Web Console. Today we're going to go through how to create a VPC. So a VPC is just a virtual private cloud. It's essentially the container that all of your internal IP addresses will sit within, where all your services will go, and how you will start to build the cloud. It's the foundations of networking within the cloud, and it's something that everybody needs to understand when they are dealing with the cloud. Okay, so in order to build a VPC, you can go to the Services tab and use the search bar here to look up VPC. There are two ways to create a VPC. You can use the Amazon Launch VPC wizard. I'm just going to jump in and show you those options. There's 4 options. Okay, I'm not going to go through them and we're not going to use this. We are going to build a VPC by going to your VPC and we're going to select Create VPC. Actually, I see I have a VPC from earlier, so I'm just going to get rid of that. So if you want to delete a VPC, you just click on it and hit Delete VPC. You see when you go delete a VPC, and it's actually good that this was here, it deletes all of these components. If you have issues deleting a VPC, you need to check for things like elastic IPs or network gateways, internet gateways that may be still active. They can sometimes stop your VPC being deleted. By default, we always have a default VPC in our tenancy when we start it up first. I'm not going to use that, and while we're on the topic, a default VPC always has 3 subnets associated with it. So here's the 3 subnets. Okay. So for the purpose of this tutorial, we're going to create a VPC by clicking the bucket here. I'm going to name this tutorial. I'm going to call it 1 and VPC. Okay, that's the name of our VPC. I'm going to give it a CIDR block of 10.1.0.0/16. You always want to go big. You can't recreate this once you've created a VPC. So whatever size you create your VPC, that's the size you're limited to. For the purpose of this, I'm not going to use an IPv6 block, and we're going to leave this as default. If you select dedicated, it will cost a fortune. And click create. Okay, so you can see now that our VPC has been created. The status is available. The CIDR range is 10.1.0.0/16. We have DHCP option sets here. We have a route table associated with this, and we have an access control list associated with it. Okay. What I want to do now is I want to create some subnets to go within my VPC. So as you can see here, these are the default subnets. We're not interested in these. We want to create a new subnet, and I'm going to call this public subnet. Okay, and I'm going to associate that then, not with my default VPC, but with our tutorial 1 VPC, the VPC we just created. Okay, I'm going to stick this in EU West 1A. I am currently in Ireland. You may be elsewhere depending on where you're watching this from. Okay, and then we're going to create a CIDR block for our subnet that is public subnet, and I'm going to call this 10.1.1.0/24. So we'll have 251 IPs because Amazon reserves a number of IPs up front. So available IPs 251. Okay, so that's our public subnet. As you can see, the subnet is associated with our tutorial 1 VPC, so it sits within our tutorial 1 VPC. You have 251 available IP addresses. It sits in the availability zone EU West 1. We have a network control list associated by default, and we have a route table associated by default. Okay, so I'm going to create a second subnet here, and I'm going to call this private subnet. I'm going to associate it again with our tutorial 1 VPC. I'll put this in EU West 1B, and we're going to create 10.1.2.0/24 and create. Okay, so that subnet was also created successfully. So I'll just clear the filter here so we can see all of our subnets. And you can see I have a public subnet and a private subnet. Okay. So we have a public subnet. So what does that mean? Well, let's call this the DMZ. So with some components we need to expose to the internet, but we don't necessarily want to expose sensitive services like databases, etc. So in our public subnet, in order for this to be public, I am going to give this VPC an internet gateway. Okay. So over on the left here, I'm going to go internet gateway. I'm going to create an internet gateway, and I'm going to call this DMZ, and I'm going to call it IGW. Okay, and this is name, and it's DMZ IGW. Perfect. And create internet gateway. Okay, so I now have an internet gateway created. You'll see it here. It's currently detached, so we want to attach that to a VPC, and we want to attach it to our tutorial 1 VPC. Okay, so there's the internet gateway attached. So essentially now we have an internet gateway attached to our VPC, but in order for this to be any good, we need to associate a route with it. Okay, so I want to create a new route table, and I'm going to call this public traffic. It's going to be associated with our tutorial 1 VPC, and I'm going to create that. Okay, and close. So you can see here, and I'm going to associate a subnet with this, and I'm going to add the public subnet. Okay, within routes, I'm going to edit the routes, and I'm going to add route 0.0.0.0/0. So basically anywhere. So we want to go external. We're going to use the internet gateway and the DMZ internet gateway. I'm going to associate that with that route. So what I have done is I have associated my public subnet here with my public traffic route table, and I have added a route to basically say any traffic that wants to go to the internet should go via the internet gateway. Excellent. Okay, so we also want to create a second route, don't we? We want to create a internal routing, and we're going to associate INTR NAL routing, and we want to associate that again with our tutorial VPC. What has happened here? Does not exist. What did we do wrong? Tutorial 1 VPC. I'm just going to call this internal in case I've caused an issue. Or create a route table. Route table does not exist. Okay, cancel. So something funny has happened there. So I'm going to create a table. I'm just going to call it RT1 associated. Okay, so something funny happened there. I'm not sure what happened, but I'm going to rename this internal. Internal. That's going to be route table. Oh, or it's not. Internal route table and tick. Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to associate my private subnet with this for now. So as it stands, this subnet, so I'm just going to edit subnet. This subnet is associated with the private subnet routes. It has access to all of the other subnets, but it has no access to the internet as we have set this up, so no internet access. Okay, and we'll come back to that later on. Perfect. So what have we got now? We have, as it stands, we have a VPC created. We have 2 subnets created, a public and a private subnet. We have route tables created for public and internal traffic, and we have an internet gateway created to get out to the web. So in the next lab, what I will do is we'll put 2 EC2 instances in there, one in the private subnet, one in the public subnet, and we'll see, can we get them to talk to each other, and can we get them to talk to the internet. So if we just do a full recap, to create a VPC, you go to your VPCs, create VPC, name your VPC and put in your CIDR. /16 is the largest at the moment. So you put your /16 in, then you need to create subnets. So you go to subnets, create subnet. I've, for this use case, created 2 subnets, a public and a private subnet. I have created route tables, public traffic, internal traffic. This internal traffic will actually allow us to talk to the internet, but it will not allow the internet to talk directly into us. And we'll go through that in the next lab. And an internet gateway to allow traffic safely out to the internet. Okay, we haven't touched on network control lists, access control lists. We haven't touched on security groups. Okay, so we're going to touch on that in the next lab.